DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We're going to have a fun show today. We're going to talk about brucellosis. Brucellosis, or bangs, in cattle is something that we've eradicated in this country. We still calfhood vaccinate, and we still have the potential of that disease popping up if we don't stay on top of it. We have Dr. Justin Smith, who's the Deputy Animal Health Commissioner for the state of Kansas here. It's going to be a great show. Thanks for joining me.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America. A place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
This segment brought to you by the new Hired Hand Portable Cow Sprayer. For more information, visit cowsprayer.com. Folks, welcome to the show. Dr. Smith, welcome.
Glad to be here. Thank you, Dan.
Folks, as I mentioned in the opening, this is Dr. Justin Smith, and he is the Deputy Animal Health Commissioner here in the state of Kansas, works with the Kansas Department of Agriculture. Former practitioner, Western Kansas, wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience. We're lucky to have him in the state of Kansas, and we're lucky to have him on the show. We're going to talk about something that's pretty common, but maybe we haven't thought about the history of what's actually going on. It's brucellosis, folks, in cows or bangs.
Exactly. So yeah, brucellosis has been around for a long time. Actually, it was actually founded in the United States back in the early 1900s, and but we've had it here in the United States up at that point in time. Luckily for us, we are free here in the state of Kansas and have been free for close to 20 years now. So.
Yeah, and it comes with, you know, kind of the history. This is a disease that not only causes disease in cattle, but it can cause disease in humans. But more importantly, we decided it's something we need to eradicate.
Very true, very true. It is a disease, it is a zoonotic disease, so we do catch it from some of our domestic species that we deal with. We have basically 4 variants that we deal with. Affects sheep and goats, swine, cattle, and some of our camelids and cervids as well. So we do deal with it. It's one of them things that we can't control, and we do have the ability to eradicate it, and we have eradicated it here in the state.
Yeah, and it was quite an eradication process back in the 60s and 70s, where we went out and bled every cow.
Most definitely. Our predecessors did a knock-up job as far as getting rid of this disease, and so the animals, herds were tested on a routine basis. Where they went to sales, wherever they were commingled, they were tested on a routine basis. Positive animals were identified, and then herds that positive animals came from were done in a test and remove type process until they were cleaned them herds up.
And that's how, you know, being from the feed yard world, we had quarantine feed yards, and that's where the term quarantine feed yard came from. Is you had a bangs positive, we'd brand her and then send her to the yard, and she didn't go anywhere but slaughter.
Slaughter only, exactly. And still our sale barns today have quarantine pens for kind of a holdover for that purpose, is because as them animals were identified at the sale barn, because there are a test they can do right on site, a screening test, and as they were found positive, they were put in them pens and sold for slaughter purposes only.
So you know, kind of laying the groundwork, we've done the test and remove, and then we vaccinate to control as well.
That's very true. Very true.
So we have the 2 different biosecurity. So when we'll save the vaccination part and kind of for the calfhood segment of the show. But you know, it's one of those things that's tremendous program, USDA programs, correct?
That is true. They provide the support and the indemnity for it. Exactly.
Okay. So if we do find a positive, we do have an indemnity?
Yes, we do.
Cool, so people can be reimbursed. Folks, this is Dr. Justin Smith. He's with the Deputy Animal Health Commissioner here in the state of Kansas. We're talking about brucellosis, bangs. When we come back, we're going to talk more about how that has an impact here on our industry in the U.S. and how we're controlling it. You're watching DocTalk. We appreciate you watching the show. More after these messages.
This Meet the Future Veterinarian is brought to you by Zuprevo. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Kathleen Morris is the 5th generation of a Texas ranching family, and her mother is a veterinarian, so it was natural for her to choose a career in veterinary medicine. Her main interests are in equine dentistry and podiatry, but she also loves working with small ruminants and livestock. After graduation, she will spend the summer working in Alberta, and then return to Texas to work full-time in a mixed practice.
Some call it a come-from-behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
Horn flies are a nuisance and a production loss, so getting rid of the problem is important. What I like about the vet gun is you don't have to go out there weekly to treat them with a topical fly applicant. It has some duration, it lasts. You see the increase in weight gain, it just works. I've used it on our 1,500 cow-calf operation, and it makes me more confident in saying, hey, this product's gonna work on your operation too.
This segment brought to you by the new Hired Hand Portable Cow Sprayer. For more information, visit cowsprayer.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with our special guest, Dr. Justin Smith, who's the Deputy Animal Health Commissioner for the state of Kansas, which means you pretty much have your finger on the pulse of all regulatory veterinary medicine and internal movement, external movement of animals. Quite a bit of
Yes, exactly.
job, isn't there?
Exactly. Kansas, we have a tremendous amount of movement in and out of the state, and you're right, it all comes through our office as far as being able to validate that that is a legal movement, as well as a movement that we have our hands on in case we need to do some follow-up and trace backs on disease purposes.
Okay, so kind of talk me through, because I think that sometimes producers, and maybe we just start out with, like, let's just use Kansas as an example, but when do I need to get a health paper?
Sure. Anytime that an animal comes into the state of Kansas, unless they are coming to slaughter or to a livestock market, must have a current CVI or a current certificate of veterinary inspection done.
So if they're going to a packing plant, they don't need a health paper.
They do not need a health paper, no.
And then a market, define that.
A livestock auction market, one of our livestock markets here in the state of Kansas.
So they could come in from Colorado and go to a livestock market. Now, to leave that market, do they need a health paper?
If they're going back to the other state or going back across state lines, yes, they will need a health paper. Okay. But the reason for that is we have veterinary inspectors at them livestock markets, and so they serve as the inspections of them.
And
animals.
we have them at the slaughter facilities too.
Exactly.
USDA antemortem inspection.
Exactly.
Okay, so it makes perfect sense. So then places that they're going that there won't be veterinary inspection from the state or federal level is when they have to have the accredited veterinarian.
Yep.
At the state of origin.
State of origin, a preemptive inspection, exactly.
That makes a heck of a lot of sense, doesn't it, folks? So then when it comes to brucellosis, what kind of things do we have to document on brucellosis?
Well, fortunately, the United States is free.
Okay.
Every state in the nation is free right at this point in time, and we don't expect otherwise. Now, there are some areas that are around the Yellowstone that we consider our designated surveillance areas. Mm-hmm. They have an endemic problem with their wildlife population out there, and so there is an area that's deemed within them 3 states around Yellowstone that are deemed to have brucellosis problems. So for that, the state of Kansas requires any animals that are coming in for the purposes of breeding or anything over 18 months of age must have a brucellosis test.
Okay.
Prior to coming in.
So that's really the only place that bangs winds up being on the health papers is in that Yellowstone
In that
area.
Yellowstone area, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, and then what other things, I mean, if, you know, we got a minute here till we go to the break, but what things are the most common then that have to be on a health paper? Is there anything that we have to test for? Depends on the state.
It depends on the state, definitely. Here in the state of Kansas, we definitely require a trick test on our incoming bulls, our
Yep.
trichomoniasis test. Depending on where they're coming from, like I said, we do require brucellosis test on some of the swine, some of the pseudorabies on some of the swine, but the cattle, we really, basically, we're free. Now, our heifers, our dairy heifers do require a TB test prior to coming into the state of Kansas, or a tuberculosis test.
You bet. Well, it's extremely interesting, extremely big job. I'm glad that we've done the groundwork and don't have to do all the testing anymore. I know it was a pain probably for when people were going through it, but boy, they made it easier on us.
Oh, very much so. It was a pain and it was costly. It was costly.
But it's saving us money now.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So, folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about calfhood vaccinating your heifers. Something that everybody does. Probably sitting there to do it, don't think about it, don't know why we're doing it, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back from the break. You're watching Doc Talk, more with Dr. Smith after these messages.
The BQA tip of the day, sponsored by Beringer Engelheim Vetmedica Inc.
Howdy, I'm Kurt Pate from Rygate, Montana, with your beef quality assurance tip of the day. When we're handling livestock, I think it's important to remember that we have three kinds of pressure. We have a driving pressure, we have a drawing pressure, and a maintaining pressure. If we apply pressure properly, when we do whatever job we're going to do, it will put the animal in the position we want to put it in the right frame of mind. And for beef quality assurance, if the animal is calm and ready to be worked, that's the right thing to do.
Say this is a calf that's been run through the chute a few too many times. Going through the chute stresses cattle, causing them not to eat like they should. Luckily, Pyramid 5 plus Presponse SQ provides proven protection against key respiratory diseases in a single shot, with just one trip through the chute. Talk to your veterinarian about Pyramid 5 plus Presponse SQ, and soon your calves will relax and eat like a whole different animal.
The new Better Horses Network is worldwide, presented by Lucas Oil, featuring worldwide radio and TV with iconic hosts like Al Dunning, Sharon Camarillo, Ernie Rodina, Lindy Birch, and Craig Cameron. With American Cowboy, Horse and Rider, Brushy Creek, Cavenders, and Ride TV. Worldwide radio and TV, the all-new Better Horses Network.
Do your cattle struggle with pink eye, BRD, or another disease? Contact Newport Laboratories for a customized solution. Our custom-made vaccines are produced using the specific diseases found in your area. These USDA licensed vaccines offer potential cost savings on vaccine and labor. Contact your veterinarian or Newport Laboratories the next time your cattle are in need of a custom solution. Newport Laboratories custom-made vaccine, because every situation is different.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson with Dr. Justin Smith, who's the Deputy Animal Health Commissioner here in the state of Kansas, working for the Department of Agriculture. And we're talking about brucellosis. And so talk me through, because you hear people say, well, I got to bang those heifers, or I got to calfhood vaccinate those heifers. This is really part of this brucellosis control, correct?
That is correct. The calfhood vaccination has been a phenomenal vaccination, and it's helped us tremendously in the ability to eradicate this out of our domestic herds. So the calfhood vaccination is a vaccination that's available out there. It is only done or allowed to be done by an accredited veterinarian on your herd. It is a 2 cc dose. The vaccination period is anywhere between 4 and 10 months of age on cattle. I say that's certain states. Here in the state of Kansas, we do 4 to 12 months.
4 to 12
months of age.
Now this is a live
That is
vaccine.
true. That is true.
This is actually, you know, now the RB51 vaccine, which is a live brucellosis vaccine, and one that you don't want to inject yourself.
Very much so. No, the injection component is it is a live vaccine. It's a dangerous vaccine. Granted, the RB51 strain that we're using now is much safer than the old strain we used to use. We used to use the old strain 19. Which was actually the field form of the vaccine, of the disease that we had out there. And so, but the RB51 is safer, but it still is a human health hazard. And it's definitely one of them things that if you do happen to stick yourself or be contaminated by a contaminated needle, you need to make sure and call your medical doctor right away.
Yeah, and you can get on antibiotics, and you know, probably the most famous case of human brucellosis was the James Herriot.
Yes, exactly.
All creatures great and small.
Exactly.
He suffered from self-induced brucellosis.
Right.
But let's so I'm gonna vaccinate those heifers. What kind of paperwork or you know, we have is it the orange ear tag that goes in there?
So when your veterinarian does it, they will do like I say, a 2 cc vaccine, and then they will put a tattoo in that ear of that animal that they vaccinate, and that tattoo is the official documentation or the official identification of that animal being vaccinated. It will have depending on the vaccine they use, it will have an R and then a USDA shield in the year that they were done in. In addition to that, they will put in an orange metal clip, or now we have actually orange RFID calfhood vaccination tags.
Cool.
So they will put that tag in. Honestly, that's an individual identification, but the official part of that vaccination is the tattoo. Is the tattoo.
And so now, which animals are required for calfhood vaccination? So if I have heifers, they're going to a feed yard.
No.
They don't have to be.
Right. In the state of Kansas, we have no requirements on calfhood vaccinations. So it's strictly a producer choice. But the ones that we do vaccinate are the heifers. We definitely don't want to do any of our bulls. In fact, if we do, that we need to consider that being a steer at that point in time.
Yeah.
But
because they'll show up positive for the testing that we do if we ran bangs testing on that bull.
Most definitely, yes. So, but yeah, it is the heifers between that 4 and 12 months of age.
Okay, great. Folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about bangs and brucellosis and the wonderful program we have here in the United States. Learn a little bit more about it. We're lucky to have Dr. Smith here. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
When looking at the number of farm and ranch operations, the USDA Census of Agriculture says cattle and beef production is the largest single segment of American agriculture. The census also says the average age of the American cattle farmer or rancher is in the late 50s. In order to support the continuous supply of U.S. beef, these producers need to do some business planning to successfully transfer their cattle operations to younger, independent producers.
Hi, my name is Bill Bartlett. I'm from San Antonio, Florida. We're about 45 miles north of Tampa. I'm third generation rancher here. My grandfather bought this land in the 1930s. He bought this land for 50 cents to $1 an acre. And he bought the ranch, and then along with my dad and my uncle, they ran the ranch through the years. And now it's went to my family with my mother, my brother, and my 2 sisters. I guess what I've seen the most valuable to me personally of the beef checkoff is the promotion of our markets, how it has increased our markets overseas and even here in the United States. Our society has grown. We have people that are farther away from the ranches now that do not understand the way of life of ranching. The beef checkoff helps in some of the misunderstandings that some of the consumers may have. One of my main concerns with the beef checkoff now is the value of the dollar of the beef checkoff. The beef checkoff was established in 1985, and the beef checkoff dollar now is only worth 41 cents. We need more support because we have to educate the people what is going on in the beef industry. We want to educate them about nutritional value of beef.
We've raised our children in this lifestyle, and our middle daughter would certainly like to continue that lifestyle. She has a passion for the cattle industry, and I believe with the beef checkoff's help that she could continue in the beef cattle industry and prosper and have a viable business for her and her children.
We need the support of the beef checkoff to pass this on to the next generation. Our next generation is going to take this industry and have to move forward with it, and with the support of the beef checkoff, they will be able to do this to have a better, more prosperous product here in the future of the beef industry. What we need is support of the beef checkoff in order for these things to continue on.
Broadband has become as important to us as highways. That is why DocTalk is teaming up with NTCA, the Rural Broadband Association, and rural broadband companies like Blue Valley Telecommunications in fighting for quality broadband access through the program Smart Rural Communities.
I don't think we have any idea what's coming in the future. I couldn't have imagined 5 years ago what we're doing today. So in 2 years, I would guess there's things we can't imagine that we're going to be doing.
To learn more, visit ntca.org/smart or bluevalley.net.
Healthy cows start with the new hired hand automatic livestock sprayer. Rancher invented to provide an efficient alternative to pour-on and injectable parasite management systems. The portable design allows cattle to treat themselves head to hoof. Strategic device placement with pass-through activation technology takes the stress out of parasite treatment for cattle and the rancher, leaving more time to tend to other vital tasks on the farm. To learn more, visit cowsprayer.com. The new hired hand makes healthy cows easy.
It's easy to spot the man who uses Synanthic. With lower volume and less waste, Synanthic steps up your deworming routine. Get more deworming with less dewormer at Synanthic.com.
Beringer Ingelheim Vetmedica Inc. knows the importance of beef quality assurance and asks you to step up and get certified. Go to bqa.org for details.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Justin Smith, who's a veterinarian and is the Deputy Animal Health Commissioner here in the state of Kansas. And as we're talking in the break, just because Kansas doesn't have mandatory bangs, some states do.
Definitely. Most of our western states do require calfhood vaccinations, the Colorados, the Wyomings, Utahs. So that is something to keep in mind. Even though in Kansas we don't require it, if you happen to be moving animals there or potentially be moving animals to them states, you want to consider getting your animals vaccinated just for that purposes only.
And if you live in those states, obviously work with your veterinarian, make sure you get those heifers in the states. Check with your state veterinarian, your animal health commission, and make sure that your herd's in compliance with brucellosis, especially where they have elk herds and
definitely
and wanting to keep the vaccination and things like that. Speaking of elk, that was something we wanted to talk about with some of our wildlife or endemic infections, and it's not just elk, it's other species.
It is other species. There again, we talked about the designated surveillance areas, the Yellowstone area. They have a tremendous problem within their bison herds and within their elk herds, and so even to the point where they have started programs to where they don't feed in the calving areas that these times that these elk and these bison are calving up there, to try to decrease the exposure that their domestic herds have with them animals. The big concern we have here in the state of Kansas is the feral swine. Obviously we don't have a huge feral swine problem in the state of Kansas, but we do have a problem, and so Brucellosis in swine is an issue for us.
Absolutely. And when we start to think about, you know, we never think about bangs and pigs, but when you start to think about all the problems that feral swine cause in this state and what they could be causing with disease too, pretty dramatic.
Very dramatic, and the Brucellosis form of the Brucella bacteria is actually more pathogenic than the Brucella abortus that our cattle have, and so it is one of them things that we want to keep a handle on and make sure that we are. And so any of the animals that we harvest, any of the feral animals that we harvest, feral swine, we do testing on them to try to determine our prevalence for that and pseudorabies.
It's important too for people to understand that this could be zoonotic, and if you're out there trapping feral swine or shooting them and eating them.
Yes. Now the meat is good as long as it's properly prepared, but just know that as you're harvesting these animals and field dressing these animals, that if they are infected, you have the ability to be exposed.
Okay, and make sure that you cook it.
Yes, most definitely. It has to be prepared, and that is probably the biggest concern we have is in humans, or the exposure we have is drinking unpasteurized milk or eating contaminated, unprepared meat.
pasteurize your milk, make sure that you cook your meat before you eat it. Thanks for being on the show.
No problem, Dan. Appreciate it greatly.
A great resource for me, a great resource for a lot of people in Kansas and beyond, Dr. Justin Smith, who's the Deputy Animal Health Commissioner here in the state of Kansas. Folks, thanks for watching DocTalk. Remember to always work with your local veterinarian, and if you want to know more about what we do here on DocTalk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson. I appreciate you watching DocTalk this morning. I'll see you down the road. Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com. DocTalk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.